if it isn't Backdoor Bethany.
I've not come for an argument.
No?
What you come for, then? Pamper party? Me, you, and the Prosecco? I think we should call a truce.
Hostility's really that bad?
Yes, you know that they are.
You're the one that's always bitching at me. I just defend myself.
You literally just called me Backdoor Bethany.
Yes.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 300 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that somehow got to 300 episodes of doing this shit. I'm Gavin.
And I found my favourite necklace this morning.
Is that the one that you're wearing?
Yes.
Look like beads.
My big chunky koa seed.
Chunky
beads.
extreme beads.
Yeah. I love this
That'll
necklace.
bring a tear to your eye.
I love this necklace because it's big and chunky,
It is.
you know, and I have large breasts. So I need something big and chunky.
Hold on. No. There we go. Well done.
Is that the McBoobs music?
That's the closest I can get, I think.
Yeah, you know, so I need big chunky necklaces. If I wear like a tiny necklace or something subtle, it just falls into the crevasse and gets lost. So I need something kind of big and stuff. It was in my evil eye bag, which I haven't used in months, you know, and it's one of those things that I'm like, well, it'll turn up eventually because I know it's in the house somewhere. And it did this morning. I'm so happy. This sort of thing happens. Like, you'll notice I'm not wearing my bracelet, my Links of London bracelet, or my rings, which I took off on Monday for my procedure and are still in my bag because I've forgotten to put them back on. This sort of thing happens. I put something in a bag, I put it away, and then I forget where I put it for months.
Because you take care of things.
Well, I do. They're taken care of. I just can't find them.
It's chunky. It's not Bethany chunky, but it's chunky.
My breasts are bigger than Bethany's.
Your breasts are bigger than Bethany.
I'm a mother, so I have mum boobs.
Fascinating stuff. So how have you been this week? Breasts and necklaces notwithstanding.
Yeah, well, as you know, the week started with an upper GI scope, so that was fun. We got to see Dr. Ross, who we haven't seen in a couple of years.
Yep.
So that was nice.
He never remembers, mate. That's fine.
He barely remembers me, and
Yeah.
and he's been up my asshole so many times.
That's right. Oh.
Remember when he described my cancer as phallic?
We've had this conversation fairly recently, so I'm going to
Okay,
bring
sure.
that to a premature close.
Yeah, and then, you know, spent the rest of the week at work. My very first Kelly's auction.
I tell you, I'm pressing buttons left and right. Action talk.
Yeah, my very first Kelly's auction closed yesterday, and I think it did pretty well. I'm quite pleased with it. I'm quite pleased with the few things that I brought home, including a Obama 08 for President t-shirt that I gave to Stelly that she was quite pleased with.
Have you bid on the Lexus?
No.
I was kind of hoping you were going to bid on the Lexus. I had lunch with Steve today and we were talking about the Lexus that's in the auction. We're both looking for new cars.
Do you want to bid on the Lexus? We can bid on the Lexus.
There's
if you
something.
want.
There must be something wrong with it, and I don't know if I'd get finance to buy a car in an auction.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing is with cars. There's the other car too. I can't remember what it is. Is that a Mercedes?
I don't know. I only saw the Lexus.
Yeah, that's in our tool auction. The one that I spent a day in 38-degree weather cataloging. which is fun.
Right.
The thing in the auction that got the most bids and sold for $187.50 were 3 flattened cereal boxes. One for Rainbow Bright cereal, one for Cabbage Patch Kids cereal, and one for Mr. T cereal.
Oh, pity the fool.
Yeah, I pity the fool who paid nearly $200 for 3 empty boxes.
I tell you, there are some strange people out there.
And it's hilarious because we almost threw them away. We almost gave them back to the consignor saying, oh, there's no way we're going to be able to sell these. But then I was like, we've got these other cereal boxes that we're definitely cataloging because Tom Izzo has signed them. And so these would definitely sell. We might as well just throw these in.
We want our cereal boxes signed by an old man who shouts at college children.
Well, his picture's on the box. It's Frosted Flakes. It's a Frosted Flakes box where he and the MSU Spartans from like 2005 are on the box or something.
Very good.
How was your week?
I'm feeling better, and I don't know if we've spoken about it. I know that we shouldn't have spoken about it, but I was interviewed a few weeks ago by Tom Ambrose of The Guardian.
The Guardian.
For a piece on Coronation Street that he was writing, and that went live this week, so that was quite exciting.
I haven't read it yet.
Generated an awful lot of conversation online, which we'll probably get to, and if we don't get to it, I will certainly be blogging about this week. So look out for that tomorrow.
Do you want to discuss it during Corrie News? Or do you want to discuss it now?
No, we've got an awful lot to get through. It is our 300th episode.
It is our 300th episode, and we're not really celebrating.
Well, we're not celebrating yet.
Oh, did we get some messages?
Well,
from our friends.
Just you hold your horses, because we're still in the preamble section.
That is true.
Let's move seamlessly into the preamble section, which is usually heralded by me saying, "Shall we preamble, my dear?"
Yes, please.
And then you say, "Yes, please." And then I say, "Give us some of that anniversarial Corrie News."
Simon Gregson is handling Steve's breakup with Tracy by posting lots of cute black kitten pictures on Instagram, and I approve.
Nice.
Keep that shit up, Fat Dracula. I'm so glad I followed him. So,
why weren't you following them already?
I don't know.
This is your job, Helen.
My Corrie follows are now Charlie and
Who's
Simon.
not the show anymore.
Yes, but he posted a lot of very nice pictures of himself today, and I also approve of that.
I think I'm beginning to figure out why Corrie News is so difficult to come by when you're following 2 people from Corrie, one of whom isn't even in the show anymore.
I also follow the show. So, I think I follow someone else too, but I can't remember who. I follow one of the women on the show, but I can't remember which one. Anyway.
So that's one person for every 100 episodes we do of this.
Yes.
Excellent.
Most of my news doesn't come from Instagram. It comes from actual news sources. Yes. But not the Sun, because that stuff is shit.
Yep. Stay clear of that.
Fuck the Sun.
Fuck the Sun.
Fuck the Sun.
And in other news, fuck the Sun.
Right, yes.
Now sport.
We're gonna be fucking the Sun on Monday for the eclipse. Moving on. Brooke Vincent, Ellie Leach, and Lucy Fallon are set to appear in the new reality show Drama Queens, which will follow the behind-the-scenes life of soap opera female actors. I'm trying so hard not to say actresses.
It's still valid.
Yeah. But, as someone of the female persuasion myself, I would prefer...
With boobs to prove it.
Yes. People don't call me a catalog-ess or a curatess. They call me a cataloger or a curator. So, so I tried to show the same respect.
It works better for some occupations than others.
Yeah, nobody's a doctress. And finally, break out the pitchforks again as Corrie was moved once again for sport. It should have been on tonight. It wasn't. It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which I think actually works better. And I wish you would have told me. I would have watched Corrie sooner, and we couldn't have done Corrie last night because Stelly and I were on. we're at Moulin
finish a
Rouge.
sentence.
Moulin Rouge. Doing the can. Anyway, this time, not only was it for sport, it was for women's sport.
Lady ball.
They're letting women play sports now?
They are just so men can complain about it, I think.
It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking.
It'll never catch on.
No.
Except it's actually much better to watch than the men's game. Anyway,
Absolutely. This time for women's UEFA qualifier.
UEFA.
Sure. Which pits England against Sweden. So it wasn't even for March Madness. It wasn't even for
What's March Madness?
ladies basketball, which is much more interesting than soccer.
You're wondering why American ladies college basketball doesn't get shown on ITV?
It should. Everyone should watch it. It's good fun. Go Sweden. And that's great news.
Oof, we got there in the end. But, do you know, somehow, through the madness,
Through the March Madness.
you still managed to
It's
lead
April
us
now.
seamlessly into our feedback section, which I like to call Everyone's a Critic. Imagine our feedback bag of previous weeks has been chunky.
Like my necklace.
Well, this week
Necklace of the week.
for our 300th episode, which I've now mentioned a few times.
You have.
And you still aren't really getting excited for it. But anyway,
I'm very excited. I wore my favorite necklace for it.
For our anniversarial feedback section, we have a feedback bag that is fit to burst. Now, remember, I said, send us your messages. And in fact, if you fancy recording yourself,
Yeah, I'm quite excited.
send that in as well.
I'm quite excited to hear what these people sound like.
Do you think anyone did that?
I hope so. Did they?
Let's start with Canadian Helen.
Where in the world is racist Kelly hiding? Happy 300th episode to the Talk of the Street with love from Canadian Helen.
American Helen approves.
That's Canadian Helen, who I think is singing the theme tune to
Carmen San Diego, yes.
Yeah, it wasn't just a random.
No.
Thank goodness, because I'm not really familiar with that at all.
We're aware.
Right. Thank you, Canadian Helen.
I love that so much.
Then Daisy wrote in to say, Helen, how you've never played Monkey Island? I think you must have played Monkey Island.
I've never played Monkey Island.
What we will do at some point during the summer is we will sit down and we will play Monkey Island together.
Sure. Okay.
Very
we
good
can do
fun.
that.
Then Noel wrote in, hello, my little duckies. Let's jump right in, shall we? Steve struts his stuff, but he's got no game. My what the fuck moment of the week was Billy's response to Summer's joke about a MAGA hat, and I quote, what would those lefty professors think? Really, Billy? Really?
Thank you, Noel.
It looks like we have an oldie-timey hair-off between David and Adam. Meanwhile, there's a rumble in cell block 99. The elephant in the room. Izzy's on fire. It's speed dating. And finally, who didn't love Evelyn and Cassie together in the pub quiz? Heartless bastards, that's who. That's it from me, Noel, hunkered in the bunker, somewhere in no man's land, who somehow didn't manage to mention 300 episodes, but that's fine.
Yeah, and didn't. I was most looking forward to hearing Noel's voice because then I could tell whether or not he's really secretly an American.
And that's why he'll never tell.
I know.
And Thomas wrote in saying they should hook up Glenda with Tommy O. They would oddly work.
They would.
But he's gone now.
Anybody would work with Glenda, except for assholes.
Yes.
Because Glenda is perfect in every way.
We will get to it, I'm sure. Tommy O, I think, unfortunately, has served his purpose.
Yes.
And we'll probably discuss whether we think it was worth it or not a little bit later in the show. Then Chloe from Nova Scotia wrote in, congratulations, Helen and Gavin, on 300 episodes. I have perhaps the dubious honour of having listened to all of them. Some of them more than once.
What? I don't even listen to them more than once.
Do you listen to it ever?
I listen to it every week.
Do you?
Most of the time, though, it starts while I'm sleeping.
Right.
And then I wake up and it's on like one of our first episodes or an episode from like 2 years ago. And I'm like, What are you doing to me, Apple Podcasts? That app is so weird sometimes. Now, because I listen to podcasts at work, now List of Lists comes on while I'm at work, and it feels a little awkward, even though I'm in a room by myself, to be listening to myself.
Yeah, I've done that at work. Played the talk of the street, and my voice booms out of my phone while people peer over the partition and say, "Are you listening to your own podcast?" They're like, yes, I am that asshole.
Yes, I am.
Anyway, Chloe continues, I used to write in all the time and then I stopped. I also drop in to say hello on Twitter now and again, and in fact the only reason I have a Twitter account was to try and win the Talk of the Street mug a few years ago.
Aww.
And I lost. Anyway, it's hard to imagine a Saturday
morning. You can still
morning...
buy one, can't you?
Yeah,
are they still available to buy?
Who wants to do that?
What's his name? With the wife. He's got one, and he bought it. He spent money on my face.
Anyway, it's hard to imagine a Saturday morning that I don't share with you two. So thank you both very much indeed. Lots of love from Nova Scotia, which I hope is on your 2025 escape route. Thank you very much, Chloe, for that.
Nova Scotia. It is a place we haven't been to together yet.
But if we were to escape in 2025, it'd certainly be in that direction.
We would definitely be going to Canada.
Then Jennifer wrote, Hi Gavin, Helen, I just wanted to say a huge congratulations and thank you for your wonderful podcast.
Aww.
I started back up with Coronation Street after moving back with my parents during lockdown and immediately became hooked on the Talk of the Street.
Aww.
It's the only podcast I listen to every week. You got me through long journeys, IKEA furniture building and post office queues. I recently went on the tour of the street and spent much of it telling my long-suffering boyfriend all about the show and what you both have to say about it. Here's to 300 more episodes. All the best from Manchester. From Jen. Thank you so much, Jen.
That is so freaking lovely.
Isn't it?
I'm so verklempt now.
Then John wrote in to say, Hi guys, things the show haven't forgotten, number 42 and 43. Calla agreeing that it's not a good idea to leave candles on, a reference to the Victoria flat fire caused by Tracy.
Yes.
Sean saying to Eileen that he does get on with Maria apart from the Marcus debacle. Cheers and keep up the great work. You always give me a good laugh. From John. And then...
Who also didn't mention the 300th episode.
Deftly avoided it. And then,
why is it only the women who mention it?
And then Fiona left us this message.
Another message.
Hi Gavin, hi Helen. This is Fiona from the United Kingdom. I just wanted to say happy 300 and still love listening to the show. I haven't watched Corrie now for 2 years.
Oh my God.
So there's whole characters who you're telling me about, but I don't even know what they look like. Don't know what Damon looks like. Don't know what Dee Dee looks like. Don't know what racist Kelly looked like.
She looks
Doesn't
like Kelly.
bother me. I would much rather experience these stories through you than actually sit down and watch the show, to be honest. I listen to you every week, usually while doing a workout, which people that know me find slightly odd, but I wholeheartedly recommend it. Keep up the good work. Bye.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Fiona from England.
That's so beautiful. And she sounds lovely. She hasn't watched the show for 2 years.
It's the
And
idea.
she still listens to us telling her what's going on in the show.
Characters that she doesn't know what they look like.
Right.
That's hilarious.
Racist Kelly looks like Kelly. Damon looks like Wolverine. And Dee Dee looks like the most gorgeous human being you've ever seen in your life.
She does.
With fantastic hair.
And then Pickles left us this message.
Pickles!
Helen and Gavin, it's your friend, the Big Dill, Pickles. As the young kids say, Congo on 300 episodes of your brilliant podcast. I love having y'all's voices in my life. And so here's my voice in a few minutes of your life saying thank you and Congo. Thank you for all the auction talk. And Congo, Helen, on your new job. Also, happy 300 to you. Happy 300 to you. Happy 300 episodes of your brilliant podcast. Every one of them have been a blast. Thanks, Helen and Gavin. Congrats.
Thank you, Pickles.
I'm literally crying right now. You guys are so lovely to us. Oh, the Big Dill. Oh my God. That's you. Thank you so much, everybody. It makes me feel really good how much people love us.
I don't know.
I don't know why they love us, but they do.
I don't know what I was expecting when I put out that call I wanted, or I hoped that someone would take us up on it. The fact that so many people wrote in and so many people
Left
left
messages.
is just absolutely fantastic. You all are incredible. So thank you, Pickles, Fiona, John, Jennifer, Chloe from Nova Scotia, Thomas, Noel, Daisy, and Canadian Helen. You all are just wonderful. Feedback is always welcome. Send us your thoughts and I will probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. Please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only in the interest of brevity. And it ain't finished there, because now we're going to podcast for coffee. Thank you to Australian Helen for her coffees this week.
Oh, the love from the Helens. It's just amazing.
Australian Helen writes, "Hi Helen and Gavin, thank you for the podcast. I love listening every week. Keep up the great work." From Australian Helen. She's in Melbourne, where Neighbours is set.
Ooh.
I do like a bit of Neighbours.
Ooh, you just like Margot, even though she's not on the show anymore.
And I never watched it when she was. And then we have a new friend of the podcast.
What?
Thank you to English Victoria.
Well, that makes sense.
She signed up to be a friend of the podcast and also bought us coffees this week.
Well, she is a queen.
I thought it was about time I signed up to become a friend of the podcast. She writes, "Having listened to you guys for months now, weekly without fail, it's one of the highlights of my week, and I just must say, I think you are both totally fantastic, and Corrie should be incredibly grateful to you guys for such an amazing and entertaining companion to the show. You mentioned recently that you didn't think you had any/many listens in the UK. Well, here I am, ready to represent. I listened to your podcast avidly all the way through my recent pregnancy, and still now as I go about my chores around the house, and I kid you not, I actually think my baby recognises your voices.
Oh my God!
So hi and thanks from English Victoria and baby Noah."
Oh,
Thank you very much, English Victoria.
Aw,
Thank you for
baby
joining and being a
Noah.
friend of the podcast. That's just absolutely lovely. Then Ian Les Paul,
yes. Who has my face in his cupboard?
he had his auction, remember Auction Talk from last week or the week before? Well, it's sold. Sadly, the Paul store wasn't triggered this time though, but enjoy your coffee. Best podcast out there, says Ian. Thank you so much.
Next time, Ian, send it to me.
And Joe T, thank you for the coffees this week. Congrats, Gavin Helen, on your 300th episode. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Joe T.
Joe.
Love it. So thank you to Joe T, Ian Les Paul, English Victoria, and Australian Helen for our coffees this week. I am drinking Coca-Cola spiced.
Right,
Like
yes.
the kids are drinking
You're
when they're
the-
watching Lost and playing their PS Vistas.
And, and it's causing warfare on the planet of Dune. Coca-Cola Spice.
It is. It's good.
It's good. Yeah. Your pal, Timmy Chalamet, highly recommends it. He's your pal, not mine.
Oh, fair enough. We are absolutely inundated with love and appreciate it. So
It feels so nice.
Very much. The Talking Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think a show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast like English Victoria did through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. But remember, you can always support the podcast for free. Get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. Oh, you all right?
All right. Yeah. I'm still a little weepy, but I'll power through.
It's kind of overwhelming a little bit, isn't it?
It is.
I thank the people for taking time out their day to write to us, and especially to leave us little messages like that. And if you want to continue to communicate with us via this means, please feel free.
Yes.
So, all right, that was a very long preamble. Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
All right, let's do this for the 300th time then. Our first storyline tonight is Tommy OMFG. On Monday, instead of destroying the letter from last week, Steve brought it home and Amy nearly catches him with it. That was the letter that Tommy O put under the door at the florist
Right.
before.
Which says that he wants Tracy to come with him to Spain.
Steve wants to spend time with Amy and is jealous when she'd rather spend time with Tracy. He apologises for catching Amy in the middle. At lunch, Amy listens to Tracy complain about the state of her flat, and she reckons that she needs a man in her life. Even Steve at this point. Amy points out that she had that and let it go. So when Steve goes home, he sees Tracy in his dressing gown coming down the stairs, and she tells him that she wants him to try again. She wants him back. Tommy was a mistake. Steve takes little convincing and nips off to Dev for some celebratory plonk, but when he explains the news to Dev, Dev refuses to sell anything to Steve, insisting that Steve deserves better.
Yes. Than dollar store Easter ham and Tracy.
Right. Steve storms off in a huff. He gets home and is about to talk to Tracy about Tommy's letter, but has a change of heart and burns it in the sink, and then takes Tracy to the Rovers. Steve makes a grand announcement that he and Tracy are back together, and the next round of drinks is on him, and no one really gives a fuck.
No.
Dev gives him his blessing, provided it's for the right reasons, and flustered, Tracy heads home to check an errant candle. Once there, she gets a call from Tommy, and he's basically saying, why haven't you called me back? And
Right.
why haven't you responded to my letter? And Tracy is very confused
What
about
letter?
all this. So he must fill her in. Tracy
But I
approaches
like that.
Amy with questions about the letter being pushed under the florist's door, but Amy says she didn't close the florist on Saturday, it was Steve. So when Steve gets back, Tracy is fucking furious.
Yeah, she doesn't want to get back together anymore.
No, that's gone. That ship has sailed. She demands to see the letter. Steve eventually admits to burning it, but this changes everything for Tracy, and she'll be leaving for Spain with Tommy on the morrow. In the meantime, she's leaving, and she jumps into the back of a black cab, apologises to Steve, gives him a hug, and tells him it's over. For reals this time.
And meanwhile, Dev and Mary watch on while eating chips.
Right. Eating chips from Dev's chip shop.
Right, yes. Yes.
Which people have forgotten about.
Yes.
Chesney officially is still the manager of that chip shop.
Yeah, he's never in it, though.
He's going home stinking every night. If it's no garlic, it's fish. Poor Chesney. But more to the point,
Poor Gemma.
Poor Gemma.
Yes.
Oof.
It was nice to see Dev this week.
Yeah, he's got a beard again.
Yes, he does. I love a beard on Dev.
I was watching an old episode where not only did Dev have his beard, but he had his pork pie hat on. Remember his hat?
Oh my God. And I called him the British Jeff Goldblum. Yes. He's very Goldblum-esque anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. They both have kind of that weird sexual energy about them.
Yeah, all of Dev's energy is sexual, I imagine. So Tracy jumps into the black cab, but this isn't her leaving. This is just her
Going to a
temporarily
hotel
leaving.
or something?
So she's getting a black cab exit there,
Yeah.
but then she comes back again. So on Tuesday, Steve is in Nina's Rolls with Amy reading horoscopes, which are still a thing. Who knew?
There are so many things that have been going on in the show lately that were like, oh, this is still a thing. Like speed dating. Last week. Oh, is this still a thing? Reading newspaper. And I was like, oh, people still read newspapers, and they read the Zodiac in the newspapers, their horoscopes in the newspapers in 2024.
Yeah, who knew?
Who knew?
People have dinner parties.
Well, yeah, people still do have dinner parties.
Do they?
Yeah. We're just never invited to
We're
them.
never invited to them.
We never throw them either.
No. And that's fine. I'll just cook my own dinner. So, his stars warn him not to let anyone get under his skin, which obviously means Tracy. In the meantime, Steve has got a hit on his dating website, but he's oddly hesitant to accept a match. And number one, Tracy is packing and wants to take a shitty mug that Amy made when she was a kid. Ken tries to hide his excitement at getting closer to an empty nest and whisks the family off to the Rovers to celebrate, where, obviously, Steve is drowning his sorrows with his horoscopes, and everyone pities him. He's fairly mature though, and he doesn't even react much when Tommy O comes in, and in fact, he just leaves without a word. And it's not long before the clan has gathered outside the Rovers to say a final cheerio to Tracy.
Cheerio!
Ken has his murdering gloves on again. Amy hopes that she knows what she's doing.
He's got a date later.
Tracy says that she's taking a punt. And even Kirk turns up, who Tracy admits to barely knowing. Tracy and Tommy O disappear around the corner in his decorator's van.
Right. Are they just going to leave that at the airport?
Slowing.
Are they going to drive it through the tunnel?
Slowing to rub salt into the wounds of a forlorn-looking Steve. It's a weird kind of exit. And now I'm wondering, what happens to the florist?
Right,
And
yeah,
now I'm
that was
wondering, what happens to the florist's van? Why aren't they going in that? It was a better van. We established that last week, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. It's like, well, what does this mean that just Mary and Amy will run the florist?
Amy can't do that. She's got uni to think about.
Right, so it'll be mostly Mary. They just send money occasionally to Tracy because she's the owner?
Who knows?
I don't know. It seems like nobody, it's not even discussed. You would think that there would be a moment where Tracy says to Mary, right, you're in charge now. I'll call you later so we can work out the details or something.
When people leave, there should be like an appendix episode where people just sit down and work out the finer details of somebody's exit. Not part of the main show. We have our 6 episodes or 3 hours or whatever, but maybe just an extra 20 minutes on a Wednesday night. Just Tracy sitting down with Amy and Mary and explaining all this stuff.
Or like, she walks or they drive away and then there's a freeze frame and then over the freeze frame there's like an explanation of what happens to them afterwards. Like Ice Cube in Boys in the Hood, where he walks away and it freezes and then it says that his character was murdered 2 weeks later, which is fucking depressing.
Oh, depressing.
Or
it's a good film though.
Or that dog in The Simpsons that's an alien. The alien dog in The Simpsons that flies away and then it says that it later died or whatever.
What Simpsons are you watching? No Simpsons.
It's a meme.
Afterwards, Mary gets a bit maudlin in the Rovers, talking about her relationship with Tracy, how the mean girl could like the misfit. And then Mary decides and announces quite loudly that she likes being a misfit. And later, Steve decides to go on his date after all. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
So farewell to Tracy.
Yes. Fare thee well.
How do you feel about that?
It's weird, isn't it?
Well, it looks like she's not going to kill again.
Or she's going to kill off screen.
In Spain, which is fine.
Which is fine. You know, she's not dead. She's just living in Spain.
It's
similar.
similar.
It's not death. If anything, moving back to England would be death.
Sorry, English Victoria. I'm sure Helen didn't mean that.
No, I'm just saying Spain is nicer. It's warmer.
Well, it's warmer.
And it's got beaches that you can swim at.
Anyway,
yeah, it's really weird because there really wasn't any warning, any warm up, you know, any like, I mean, we were kind of speculating that she would go with Tommy O, but it didn't really feel like that's the way it was going.
well, this all kind of kicked off round about Christmas where they had the conversation about taking a relationship break.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it kicked off a little bit before that when Steve announced that he and Tracy weren't getting on well.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, when the fuck did this happen? Because as far as we can see, the same that they've been for years. They're Steve and Tracy. They argue because he's a bit of a layabout and she expects better and stuff like that. But they're Steve and Tracy and they've been like that. And they've got Amy that they've been focusing their time on after her rape and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So it came as a bit of a surprise to learn that they weren't getting on. That relationship break thing at Christmas seemed to be off the back of that.
Right.
And then 3 months later, she's gone.
Right.
They didn't really hang about.
No, they really didn't. It's kind of weird, especially for you know, somebody who's kind of an icon and a legend of the show. And the newspapers will say somebody is an icon or a legend or a superstar of the show, and it's somebody who's been in it for just like 2 months. But with Tracy, that's like...
Her birth was part of an episode.
Right. Yeah. So it does kind of feel weird for her to just up stakes kind of abruptly. This isn't the only weird exit that we're going to talk about this week. Obviously, we've got the other one, which the exit, let's be honest, happened months ago. But it's like official now.
Seems to be.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the thing that that I saw a couple of people maybe explaining a little bit better than I could was Steve was Tracy's lobster.
Right.
Steve has always been the guy that Tracy fancied, going
Right.
back 20 years, 25 years.
And who she always goes back to.
And this is... It makes it feel very unlikely that she would just leave over a 3-month spell. And as she says, it's a punt. She doesn't know really
Right.
anything about Tommy O, about living with him or anything
Right.
like that. Never mind living in a foreign country with him.
And it also kind of feels like the whole reason why Tracy didn't want to be with Steve anymore was just the vibes, as the kids say.
Right.
You know, I'm just not feeling this anymore. You know? And I mean, everybody goes through that, but it's not a reason to leave.
She's not the same character that she was.
It's true.
And she's become a very domesticated, watered-down version of herself.
It's true.
When she has moments like when she glued herself to the desk in the police station, those moments are kind of few and far between. She's never really ripped anyone to pieces in the longest time. She's just been a kind of diluted version of the Tracy that was this kind of super bitch that was introduced into the
Right.
show when Kate Ford took over the acting duties for Tracy. She was introduced as this bitch. She was a hateful character.
Right.
What she did to Roy, trying to get money out of him, saying that Amy was Roy's baby. And,
Right.
you know, just really, really nasty stuff that she used to get up to. And she's been a million miles away from that for the longest time. So I don't think we're losing the hub of a lot in terms of story.
Right.
But was kind of nice to know that she was still there.
Right.
So it's the kind of the comfort blanket sort of thing. And you know, Steve's kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's kind of circulating him.
No.
He's just a nice cuddly thing to have on the show every now and again, to say something kind of silly
Right.
to Tim, have a guess at what his hair's going to look like.
Or just be a good dad to Amy, you know, or yeah, like the relationship with Tim, which I think is his true soulmate. You know, that's always good. Although even that, when was the last time we had just a random scene where they, I don't know, wrap packing tape around themselves
For the love
and
of God.
pretend to be Tyrannosaurus Rexes?
How come you've mentioned this 400 times in 300 episodes?
Because it's one of my favorite things that's ever happened on the show.
We haven't had a lot
They
of
used to
Steve and Tim
have-
time together.
Right. There used to just be these random shots of them being absolutely bonkers with each other. And it was always hilarious and it was always random. And that never happens anymore. It's always, we have to deal with Tim's PTSD. Or, we have to support Steve when Tracy leaves him and everything. He doesn't even have his horse anymore, Tim.
No.
Tim, no Tiny. No Tiny.
Maybe it says something about the state of the show, going back to the Guardian article of what's working and what's not working in the show. It's hard to imagine, like, even 5 years ago, that Tracy leaving would happen on the second episode of the week, would happen before the end of the episode, and she would leave in the passenger seat of a painter's decorator van.
Right.
Tracy leaving is lost in everything else that happened this week.
Yeah.
Nobody's remembering Tracy leaving.
No, they're remembering the new bitches on the street, newer, younger bitches to tear one another open.
So here's what it felt like. Tracy has kind of served her purpose, and she's just been kind of swept under the carpet and kind of left almost in such a disrespectful way as Liz left. Liz left with no herald at all, and was in the show for fucking donkey's years. Mm-hmm. And she just disappeared to Spain, or went to Spain, never came back. Never got a proper exit. So, I don't know. With everything that's going on in the show just now, it just felt like Here you go, a massive legacy character who's been part of so many huge stories, albeit not recently, leaves the show and leaves the show basically in the middle of everything else that's going on with hardly a spotlight and not even a black cab to finally take her away.
Yeah. I think one of the problems with Liz is that is COVID, because she left and she was supposed to come back for like for a proper send off, and then we all went into lockdown, which I think was the main problem there. But we don't really even have COVID to blame for this. So who knows? Has Kate Ford said anything about?
I haven't seen anything. But I'm kind of relying on my Corrie News for that.
It's typical. Oh, I want to expand my horizons or spend more time with family.
I think I saw something along the lines of she just felt that the time was right. And it's hard to argue with.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean to say that she shouldn't get
a proper send-off.
A proper story and maybe a big story to see her out.
Yeah.
She went out with a whimper rather than a bang, definitely.
Well,
unless you're Tommy O.
Yeah, she went out with a ex-football player. That's pretty banging.
Yeah, not as good as a football player though. Moving on then. Our next storyline is Private Joseph. On Monday, Granny Linda is taking Joseph off for the Oakhill uniform fitting. And is disappointed when Gemma announces that she's going along too. And then Gemma is hugging fuming to learn that Chesney insists that he'll be paying for the uniform. They can't afford it.
Right, of course not. They can't afford anything. They can't afford air.
He says that he'll figure something out. So he goes to Dev's and asks for some extra hours to pay for the Oakhill uniform. And Dev basically laughs in his face. However, he does have an idea that if it's an Oakhill uniform that he's looking for, he might be the man to sort something out. Then Chesney goes home with a uniform that used to be Addie's.
Yay!
Joseph hurries off to try it on. It's a little long in the sleeves, but they can fix that. It's better being too long in the sleeves than too short.
Yeah, and Granny Linda is appalled by this.
She can't stand this.
She's like, I don't really do vintage unless it's for like a premiere event. And I'm like, who is this woman? And what have you done with Granny Linda? Because now you're just making her spout nonsense. And it's kind of ridiculous because in other storylines, people are talking about vintage and buying secondhand for moral reasons and to help save the planet and all this other stuff. So it's like we're just going full blown on Granny Linda is a very evil person now. She's a bad person who doesn't care about the environment and is a snob.
Since she came back this last time, she has been a horrible, horrible person.
Terrible person.
Although it's very hard for me to get too angry with her, seeing that she did buy that massive fridge. Don't get to see the fridge this week.
No fridge this week. That's because nobody was coming to interview anybody in the house. And I guess they've got the ice maker fixed. They figured out where the one little widget was supposed to go.
I wanted that to be a thing that carried on for months, that just months later, and this thing is still spitting out ice cubes randomly.
There's a stain on the floor right underneath it. Right. They've put a bowl there.
Yes. Linda, though, can't stand by and watch and promises to get him a new one. And Joseph is obviously happy with that, but there was nothing wrong with the old one.
No, yeah, it just needed to be taken in.
Chesney
quite
hates
a bit.
not being able to provide for his own son. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yeah.
Just a few scenes this week.
Yeah, and Granny Linda's like, what, was Addie a grown man when he went to Oakhill? And I'm like, madam, he's not a grown man now. I mean, I guess he's a grown man now.
You ask Courtney Bibbs about that.
But I'll never see him as a grown man. Just like my own children. They will never grow up in my eyes. Sniff, sniff, sniff.
Yeah, and they're fine with that. Oh, dear God. Yeah, disappointed in Granny Linda's attitude here. Disappointed in Chesney's attitude as well, though. He's kind of putting this financial burden off, one would imagine, an expensive uniform that's more expensive because it's Oakhill.
Right.
When Gemma's like, exactly where are we getting the money for this? And there's 4 other kids in this house.
Right. And it's funny because it's kind of a role reversal, because before it was always Gemma saying, no, we can take care of ourselves. We can pay for our own things. We're proud if poor people. Mm-hmm. And Chesney would be like the one saying, yeah, but we can't afford this. So if somebody else is willing to pay for it, why not? And now it's Gemma who's like, no, let her pay for the uniform. And Chesney's like, no, I have my pride.
Yeah, well, it's in for a penny, in for a pound, Chesney. If she's paying
Right.
for the tutoring costs, then she might as well pay for the uniform.
Exactly.
All right, our next storyline is part-time Maria. On Monday, Maria and Liam are heading home when David stops her to have a word. She's been missing so much work recently that Audrey is in danger of letting her go. Back in the rose gold flat, Maria explains this to Gary and that she needs to focus on Liam, though. Gary agrees and has an idea for raising some money. He goes to speak to Carla and tells her that he wants to sell the factory, and now I'm remembering that Gary owns the factory.
And this show remembered too.
Well done, show. He offers Carla first refusal. Carla, though, is like,
Where am I supposed
where
to
am I
find the
supposed
money
to
for
get this
that?
money from? This is just impossible. He goes back to tell Maria that the factory is going to go on the market unless Carla can stump up. In the meantime, he suggests Maria floating the idea of working part-time at the salon. Audrey doesn't seem to care when Maria mentions it, but David is furious that he'll be having to pick up the slack. So Maria has to agree to look after a bridal party that's coming in tomorrow, which she apparently booked and had forgotten about. Back home, and still worried, Maria takes a security camera out of her bag. Not a proper security camera, not like a CCTV security camera, a private,
Yeah, like a nanny
like
cam.
like a door cam kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. On Tuesday, it's Gary's turn to take care of the homeschooling, which means it's ginger and roof collapses all morning. Maria, meanwhile, is doing the hair for the bridal party, and the bride is a bit of a bridezilla, would you believe?
She is such a cow. She's like, oh, I want all these things done to my hair, and my hair is only up to my shoulders. And it's like, lady, what the hell is wrong with you? And also, the bridesmaids can't have nice hair either. Just do it very simply because they can't steal the spotlight from me. And one of the bridesmaids' names is Helen.
Well done, Helen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They named a character after me, a character that never speaks and is always on her phone.
It's not that far out. But the thing is, this isn't going to be when this conversation's happening. This conversation isn't happening on this day because the wedding's this day.
No, the wedding's the next day, isn't it?
No, the wedding is that day.
Okay.
Because later, Maria says, who gets married on like a
Right,
a Wednesday, but it's a Tuesday.
Right. In the middle of the day.
So she's having her consultancy thing with what she wants her hair to look like hours before the wedding's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't seem
reasonable. Apparently, Maria missed the actual consultancy. There was a consultancy that was booked beforehand, and Maria was nowhere to be seen.
Oh, so it never happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So Maria checks the camera at home on her phone while she's in the salon and sees Liam teaching Gary maths. But later, while the bride is demanding a French plait while her hair is frankly far too short for it, Maria goes off to check the camera, doesn't see Gary, but sees Liam head to the toilet and she panics. She abandons the bridal party, runs back to the flat, but everything's fine and Liam just nipped off for a shite. She pretends that she needed heated rollers and that's why she came back in a bit of a fluster.
Kerfuffle.
By the time she gets back, it's Audrey and the other bridesmaids are now doing the bride's hair. The bride is not impressed and already has done the first draft of her 1-star review on her phone. Audrey decides to give them it as a freebie and asks Maria to tidy up in the back room. At home, Maria tells Gary that she's fine and there's nothing to worry about, but she's clearly quite upset by everything. On Wednesday, in the salon, David is totaling up the takings and reckons that they're short and figures out that the bridal party from yesterday didn't pay. Maria is upset as she confesses what happened. Tears don't pay my bills, snaps David. Audrey sends him home and she checks to see that Maria is okay, and Maria breaks down, explaining that Liam had tentative plans to kill himself, and she's shocked to the core when Audrey admits that she had the same intentions after she had a breakdown the other year.
Right, and actually did have an overdose of pills.
Maria is so sorry, but Audrey keeps the focus on Liam, says that if she managed to tell the tale, so will he. And this lovely scene continues as Maria explains how anxious she is that Liam will try again, and she's spying on him and stuff. Her son is in hell, and so is she. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Right.
Kind of lovely wee scenes between Maria and Audrey.
And how nice of the show to remember that Audrey tried to die by suicide. Because, like, if you see her now, you'd never know.
For all intents and purposes, either the show has forgotten that this happened for the longest time, or Audrey has. Because remember, she was going to stop her drinking, she was going to get her eyes looked at, and
she hasn't stopped drinking.
And I don't think she ever got
her eyes checked.
Got her eyes tested again. So that kind of side of it has been more or less forgotten about. But the fact that she remembers that she was so low because she was feeling so useless because of her age and her vision and stuff, and no one was treating her like she was
an adult,
a regular member of the family and stuff. And the fact that she remembered that, and you could see the shock in Maria's face. I was like, oh my God. This was one of those moments where if the show remembers to do moments like this all the time, I don't know that people would complain quite as much.
Right.
Because it's little moments where they remember the connections that these characters that have been in the show for decades obviously have with each other and have with the greater population of the street. That they have this connection, it's horrible connection.
Right.
And it allowed us to have this really kind of beautiful scene.
Yeah. You know. And I do wish the show would kind of remember these things more often. The show also, you know, with that whole Tracy and Kirk thing, I appreciated that as well, that Tracy's like, I barely know you. Because, you know, there are so many times that the show just kind of throws people together who barely know one another and they act like they've been friends for years.
Kirk turns up like Kirk would turn up because Beth has a connection with them through Bertie.
Right.
And I think Beth and Tracy have been friends in the past.
Right, because they're both bad bitches.
Right. So this is something that the show would do, and they'd either get away with it, or somebody on Twitter would say, I didn't realise that those two were friends.
Right.
But the fact that they drew attention to it.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing here?
Right. I barely
Kirk,
know
I barely know you. And he laughs.
Right. He thinks it's hilarious. That's so Tracy, he says.
Yeah.
As if this was a 90s sitcom.
Right. But yeah, for this was another good example of that. And I think this is where it becomes good writing rather than good planning and good. This has got nothing to do with storyline, and this is somebody who has the remit for what the episode's supposed to deliver. They know who's going to be on set or who's going to be available to have a line, and using that to add a bit of colour to proceedings, and it worked really well. And it works really well in with Audrey Maria, obviously.
Yes.
I really feel sorry for Maria because Liam has really shown no signs of still having suicidal thoughts or whatever weeks since this all kind of came out. But it kind of makes sense for Maria still to kind of be unable to unhear that,
right?
And
you never do,
and just focus on nothing else,
right? Yeah, that's her kid.
Mm-hmm.
That thought is never going to leave her mind. Ever. That's always going to be in the back of her mind because, it just is. It's a fact of life. His life can get better. He can be happier, but there will always be that thought that this is something that he considered. And if he can consider it once, he can consider it again.
Right.
So, yeah, I kind of feel like the camera thing is kind of ridiculous.
Oh, do you? I like it.
Little?
I mean, I think it's terrible that she's doing it, but I like that this is where she's gone with it.
It just feels... Because Gary's there. It's not like Liam's there by himself. Gary is fully capable of watching Liam.
And that's something that was proved again this week, how good a dad Gary is to Liam.
Right.
More so than his own kids,
right.
Certainly. as he's doing the homeschooling stuff.
Right. Yeah. So it for her to have like this really big important job with Bridezilla, and to just be constantly taking breaks to watch this camera where basically it's just Gary and Liam sitting around.
Yep.
And then she doesn't see Liam for a while because he's taking a shower, and she panics. But Gary is still there. Gary is still in the picture. If Gary's not panicking, if Gary's not calling you in a panic saying, I can't find Liam, then you're fine.
Does Gary know that the camera's there?
No.
See, the problem that is going to arise from this is that Maria's going to see something that she shouldn't see.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Gary's sitting there at home alone.
At the moment.
He's got that TV. He's got his phone.
These things happen. They don't usually happen in the living room when you have two children living with you, and one of them you're homeschooling. There are others.
It almost seems impossible to imagine that camera is going to be there and not catch something.
Oh, no, it's going to catch
it's
something.
not supposed to catch.
It's going to catch
and
something.
It's probably not going to be Gary masturbating, but it's going to be something.
Yeah. But secretly recording people you live with is never a good idea.
No. Now, were you trying to distract me by sugaring the table? Is there something that I should
my
be...
big massive boobs.
Should be... Oh, you and these boobs. Something I should be worried about here.
No.
Impossible.
Of course not.
All
I'm
right.
not tech savvy. If anything, you're spying on me.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Moving on then. Our next story. Just a few wee scenes here from Monday. Lost and found. I thought this was lovely. On Monday, Paul and Gemma are chatting with Brian and Mary about summer and the lost tablet. Paul and Billy lost Paul's speech tablet thing. I wish I had a better name for that.
It's just a tablet. All you have to do is say tablet, because there's things on it that are not his recordings. His recordings are on an app and the tablet.
But then
there's
those are the
also
important things, are the recordings.
that and the pictures, yes.
And he lost that in the
He didn't
terrible robbery in the Rovers.
Right. He didn't lose
last
it.
week.
It was stolen.
Thanks.
Because
kinda,
they didn't pick it up
Glenda.
when they left, instead of waiting the next day to pick it up.
Later,
Because
Hope
they're dumb.
goes to see Brian about getting a paper round, and she asks for an advance in her wages to pay for a tablet that she saw a lad selling down the precinct on the cheap. Yeah?
Oh, really?
So Brian's nose twitches at this, and he goes to the precinct, finds the lad, announces that he's no the narcs.
Right.
Don't have to worry about that. And asks to see the tablet, and confirms from the photograph, which is Billy and Paul holding hands,
Right.
that it is the same tablet. And after a struggle that can barely be described as a struggle,
It's not.
Brian is pushed to the ground as the youth makes good his escape. But Brian has
Has
a
the
firm
tablet.
grasp on the tablet and takes it back to Paul, who calls Brian a hero.
Yes. So that's done.
It's almost like it shouldn't have been stolen in the first place.
Right. Because they should have taken it home at the end of the night.
So it was stolen on Friday, recovered on Monday. There's nothing to see here.
Right. Yeah, it was
What a nothing burger. But
hilarious.
it was nice for Brian to have something to do
Right.
and
It's good.
take this tablet back to Paul.
Yes. You know, it was hilarious, though, because he's like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to confiscate it. And he's like, what? And he's like, I've already called the cops. And the kid jumps off the swing and rushes past him and bumps him in the process. And Brian falls over. And it's the greatest trauma of his life since that time that he threw up on everybody from the stage of the school.
It's just like the worst moment in Corrie history.
But you know what?
But of course he's going to get knocked over. He's top heavy.
The show remembered that Hope is a pyromaniac. Well done show.
It did, because Brian had a little dig
Brian
about kindling,
made a
didn't
crack.
he? Mhm.
Yes.
So am I thinking, does Hope have a paper round now?
No. She said, never mind. If I can't get money now for a job I haven't done yet, then I don't want it.
Which is my approach to work as well. Well done, Hope. You learn quickly. That's all that fixed. Nice to see Brian again. Nice to see Brian and Mary together.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Our next storyline is, where on earth is racist Kelly?
We still don't know.
On Tuesday, Nina has been fielding abusive calls in Nina's roles all day, while Dee Dee has some issues with CCTV that the police have managed to dig up. They've got the Woody going to the bat roost, but it's impossible to see who's in the car. And while Nina's provided a statement that confirms it was them, her testimony isn't exactly unbiased. Privately, Adam doesn't think this is looking great for Roy. On Wednesday, Roy is continuing to get dodgy messages when Bernie learns that racist Kelly's mum has been doxxed by Gorilla791. Roy decides to use these details to get in touch with racist Kelly's mum, a woman called Kerry. What on earth are you doing?
What are you doing, Roy? He's like, well, it's solidarity. Shut up. Shut up. Stop being so moralistic and ideal and just recognize the fact that humans are shit. They are terrible, and stop trying to be well-meaning with them because they will twist it in the worst possible way.
He thinks he's extending the hand of friendship here.
Right.
And I can kind of understand why he's doing this, or why he thinks that this is a good idea. It's clearly not a good idea.
It's a terrible idea.
If he thinks, well, you know, people have got me in the frame for racist Kelly's disappearance, maybe even murder, the best thing for me to do is to try and make friends with racist Kelly's mum.
Sure.
A woman who has shown no interest in her daughter whatsoever since she came back to the show last year.
Right.
Who has never, as far as we know, got in contact with racist Kelly, giving her any money, giving her any encouragement,
support,
anything.
No. She just, you know, she's taken her boyfriend's side, and that's it. We also learned that people have been breaking into racist Kelly's apartment and taking pictures of themselves in the apartment, which is creepy as fuck. What the hell is wrong with people?
Right.
It's terrible.
Even thinks this is another example of Roy doing the stupidest thing imaginable to a woman who didn't give a fuck about racist Kelly. Roy thinks mother-daughter relationships can be complicated. Even thanks him. She wasn't aware of that.
That was hilarious.
Meanwhile, in Nina's roles, David is dealing with the calls to the cafe, which was quite funny because he just calls them fucking losers and hangs up on them.
Right.
But then it turns out that one of these sofa sleuths is there in the cafe.
Is that the same guy that was there a couple of weeks ago, sitting and making notes?
No, this guy looks like Gary Neville, the footballer. The other guy didn't.
They both had beards.
So Gary Neville thinks there are secret satanic rituals that take place upstairs in the cafe with the lizard people and tells Roy that there are eyes on him. So Roy retreats upstairs after this guy's been thrown out, steps over the satanic rituals and decides that he will remain a recluse until this is all over. He even thinks that to avoid solitary weirdos, he's going to become one. Roy says yes. This is damage limitation.
Right.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yeah. It's so nice to see everybody supporting Roy. You know, here's David just in for a coffee, fielding phone calls and telling people to fuck off.
Yep. And then basically squaring up to this guy.
Right. And telling him to fuck off.
Who could have a knife or
a gun.
Or whatever.
Because it's Coronation Street.
Right.
David's hair this week was amazing.
I didn't notice.
It was so full of life.
Oh, was it? That's nice to see.
And blowing around in the breeze. He looked like he was at a L'Oreal commercial.
Now, I think he got hair transplant stuff or hair implants.
Yes. Years ago.
Which, you know, if you're an actor, I can absolutely understand it. Good for you. And if that's something that bothers you, then absolutely, why not? And especially if you can afford it, go for it. I'm glad that it's working out for him, though, because it doesn't always.
Yeah. Personally, I find bald sexy.
Just as well.
Yes.
Am I getting more bald?
You know, I don't think you are. It's just turning white.
Mm-hmm.
With every day with teenagers in the house, it gets a little whiter.
Yeah.
But you know what? Your mustache hasn't gotten any whiter. It's really holding on to the black. It's very peppery. It's nice.
Yeah, the eyebrows
are delightful and are still black.
They're still black.
There's no gray there.
I'm like a very confused Guess Who picture.
That's hilarious. I haven't played Guess Who in years.
Because what's the point? Seriously, it's the worst game ever. It was just fun that they had all these pictures.
Of these weirdos.
Right. But you could like solve it in 6, I think was the maximum that it would take. I remember sitting working it out one time. I was a fun child. I wasn't. I was 28 years old. So, yeah, it is nice to see everyone helping Roy. If only Roy would help himself.
Seriously.
Because
Listen to the advice of these people, because Evelyn says, what are you doing? Don't do that. And he still does it.
And even so much, if you're not going to take the advice of your friends or Evelyn, who you could argue knows about as much of these things as Roy does, listen to your lawyer.
Right.
What your lawyer tells you to do that.
Yeah. Evelyn says, I don't think Dee Dee will be very happy when she finds out you've done this. Maybe check with her first before you do stupid things.
I'm still liking the storyline. I'm still liking the whodunit. I don't know that it's holding my attention as much as it did a couple of weeks ago.
Right, because we don't have any new clues. It's basically just Roy is still getting harassed all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's the story right now, and that is a little boring. I want to be fed a couple of clues every week. You know, you don't need to solve it this week, but just give me something new. A phone call, a shady character running around, you know, hiding on the other corner, something.
Yeah, I agree. It's gone a little cold. And people are complaining that who gives a fuck about a story about racist Kelly? This isn't a story about racist Kelly.
It's a story about Roy.
There we go. It's a story about Roy and his friends.
Right. It's The Exorcist, essentially. It's not a story about the demons or the possession. It's a story about the priest.
And it's like Jaws. It's not about the shark.
No, it's about Dreyfus.
Well, the book's about fidelity. That's what the book's about.
Right. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Our next storyline is Bully for You. Ugh. On Wednesday, Violet and Dylan are back.
Yay!
They're staying at the Rape Hotel, so what could possibly go wrong? Sean is over the moon to see them, but Violet is still upset about all this, saying that they only came back for Dylan's school shoes, and she has no plans for pleasantries and she won't be hanging about. They're here for the court case tomorrow, and that's that. Instead, they go to the bistro where Dylan meets Bella from school, and Bella's flirty like a flirty bear with Dylan.
Yeah.
And
Not suspicious at all.
And they arrange to meet for some ice cream and jelly at the precinct later. Dylan says this is the most popular girl in school. Oh,
no,
really,
she's
Dylan?
not.
Weren't you complaining just a couple of weeks ago that you were the whole reason that you went along with Mason was to be popular because you weren't?
Yeah.
So you're not suspicious about this at all then? No?
No.
Okie dokie then. Violet reluctantly agrees, but when Bella leaves, she's instantly on the phone telling someone about the plans. I don't think this is antisocial Lauren, is it? The one who was about to get her hole with Dylan when the Rovers...
Yeah, I'm really confused.
I
I'm
can't
really
remember
confused.
who that is. I'm going to have to watch that back again.
I'm assuming it is, but
I don't think her name was Bella.
there's why would anyone ever for the rest of the history of
Twilight.
cinema would you name a character Bella?
Twilight.
No, that's why you don't name a character Bella, because immediately they're going to associate it with very bad acting.
Well,
and
that's why
sparkly vampires.
That's why this character's called Bella. The timeline probably works out. It's like why Toya's called Toya. Because Toya Wilcox was popular and riding high in the hit parade round about the time of Toya's birth.
Well, of Toya's conception.
No, I think she had to be born before she could get a name.
You typically decide on a name before the kid's born. You're not like in the hospital saying, "Oh,
Do you?
great, what do we call this
You're
thing?"
speaking for everyone here.
Yes.
Thank goodness for that.
Trust me. The fights, the arguments, the tears.
Not everyone had your first and second marriages, Helen. And thank goodness for that.
It's true. I more or less got my way, though.
Oh, surprise, surprise. So, anyway, I don't think this is antisocial Lauren. but I will be able
She
to
seems
confirm.
taller than I remember. But still, it was nice to get a name drop for Mooch. What a terrible name for a character.
Mooch.
So Bella said we're gonna meet Mooch and some other person and get ice cream.
Mooch wears 3D glasses even when they aren't watching a 3D movie.
Right.
Well done, Mooch. Fucking asshole.
He's gonna wear his 3D glasses to watch the eclipse. Only he won't be able to see it.
And burn his retina out. Serves him right.
Just
So
like
anyway,
Donald Trump.
She lures him to the precinct where he's set upon by Mason and his gang of terrible bullies. And Mason puts pressure on Dylan to change his story, contradict his statement. Otherwise, Mason and the gang of terrible bullies and Mason's 2 brothers will beat him and Sean up. And I'm like, Dylan, you're going to London. Why do you give a fuck about
Right.
this?
First of all, there's that. Second of all, this is tampering with a witness. This is really illegal. As soon as he lets you go, get your ass right to the police station and report it.
Yeah.
So he's picked up. I don't understand why this kid is roaming the street at the moment when he's a known bully. They should have him in custody until the trial. Because this was always going to happen.
Bella watches on, seemingly distressed by it all. And once Mason leaves, Bella apologises. She thought she was playing the peacemaker.
Really?
And so if they were going to the police, then take Bella with you. And
Right, yeah. And it's like, really, Bella? Really? You thought you were going to make Mason and Dylan be friends again when they were never friends in the first place?
Dylan still wants to do the right thing, but doesn't want a kicking. Back in the street, he runs into Sean, and Sean mistakes Dylan's distance for nerves about tomorrow. And when Maria comes in, she explains how she's counting on him to do the right thing. Back at the Rape Hotel later, Dylan is thinking about skipping court and letting his statement do the talking. Fuck that, says Violet. The court needs to see that you've been a victim in all this too. And that's the bottom line.
Right. Yeah, and the way he's like, we can just skip it. And it's like, no, you really can't skip it. You can't just say, well, I'm just not going to court today when I'm supposed to be in court today.
Right. And that's as far as we get with that.
It's ridiculous.
I
And
now
it's like,
worry that Dylan is going to crumble here. I don't see what difference it's going to make, because somebody who changes their statement on the stand is never credible.
No.
For obvious reasons.
Right. And is just putting himself in line to also get charged.
Yep.
And any sympathy the court felt for him as a victim as well is just going to go right out the window.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. And they still have Liam's statement. And they have Liam's testimony and stuff. So just tell the fucking truth. This guy will get sent down. Nobody's going to beat you up because everybody is going to be happier with him gone, including these brothers that he's never brought up before in the whole time he's been on the show. And why are these other kids bullying with him? You would think at this point people would be like, you know what? It's time to no longer associate with this guy
Yes.
because it's not worth it.
Yeah, what are you getting out of this?
Ooh, you get to bully Dylan.
And eat ice cream.
Yay.
Do you know, the sooner this is all over and done with, and I just worry that they're going to stretch us out a little bit further next week when we've got the court case on Monday. I presume everything though is kind of is set up for us to think that Dylan's not going to do it, which kind of means that
He's
Dylan
totally going to do
He's
it.
going to stand up, do the right thing,
and
we're
then
going to say,
go to London.
And go to London, forget all about it.
Right. And then these teenagers are going to beat up Sean? Where? And how?
This is another.
He's a grown-ass adult. Yeah, maybe he can't throw punches very much either, but there's no way you're going to catch him, you know, the way that Liam was caught and Dylan was caught alone, where people aren't going to stand up for him. And where he's not going to stand up for himself.
It's this old adage, though, of if you touch me, my brothers will beat you up.
Right.
Like their brothers are going to give a fuck one way or the other about it.
Right.
They probably hate him as much as anybody else does.
Right. Yeah. Why wouldn't they?
Right.
It was kind of a nice touch, Alia coming out of the store and asking Dylan if he's okay.
Yes, whilst carrying lots and lots of bags.
Right. And Dylan says, "How do you know my name?"
And are you pregnant by any chance?
Lady, I barely associate with out in the world. But even that, it was like, oh, you know what? Here's an opportunity for me to escape this. Alia says, "Dylan, are you okay?" Dylan says, "Yeah, I'm fine. Let me help you with your bags."
That's all he needs to say. That's all he needs to say.
And then he gets to escape that situation.
Yep. Let me help you with all those bags that are there to conceal your pregnancy.
Right. And then I will conceal your pregnancy.
Right.
But not like that.
Ugh.
Because that would be gross.
And we'll see how that goes. But let's hope that Dylan does the right thing on Monday.
Yes.
Our penultimate storyline tonight is Do You Want to Bet? Just on Wednesday. And Nina rolls Michael's with Dee Dee. He's opened Ed's post while he's away and has a final demand for a shit ton of money from some creditors. Later, Ed gets home and gets home alone from Birmingham. It turns out that Auntie Marcel has been fined for weeks, would you believe? Aggie, though, can't forgive Ed and will never be coming back. And
Never!
She's even left her job. That's it. Michael tells Dee Dee later and explains he hasn't spoken to his dad about the letter yet, and Dee Dee insists that they tell him they can't ignore this. So at night, Michael shows him the letter, which is actually less than Ed thought it was going to be, and he can pay 750 quid to it right now thanks to the work they did for Damon. Dee Dee tells him to speak to the finance company and rearrange payments. The worst thing you can do is lose contact with them. And Dee Dee and Michael promise to stick by. They'll lose their dad, and that's as far as we get with that. So
that's it.
That's it for Aggie.
No more Aggie. Which kind of felt like a done deal already. Because
it was looking like it, yeah.
Yeah. So now they've just kind of made it official. Why drag it out this long? It still makes me wonder what happened. What happened to chase this woman from the show?
Well, do we know that that's what's happened?
One way or another.
Because we don't want to speculate about someone's health.
No.
But certainly that was something that was...
There could be a health issue.
There could be a health issue, or there could be an issue on the show somewhere.
Or there could be an issue outside of the show that doesn't have anything to do with health, but maybe with family, things like that, you know? Or maybe she just wasn't feeling it anymore, and I can kind of understand that. They didn't give Aggie an awful lot to do besides be bad at cooking. There was that one storyline with Tim, which was actually kind of nice. I liked Aggie. Why is Aggie the one who's out of the show?
I thought for the longest time she was the best Bailey.
Yeah.
Until Ronnie showed up.
And then Dee Dee.
And then, yeah.
Because where's Ronnie been? We've seen Debbie, but no Ronnie.
I don't know. It's really hard to talk about it without having to horribly speculate about it. And I really don't want to spend an awful lot of time doing that. But it just feels really odd that she's been out of the show for 9-10 months. It's come up for a year. Nobody's said anything. There's been nothing in the papers about it. Nothing in the soap magazines about.
She's not on social media.
She doesn't seem to be doing anything else.
No.
She just disappeared.
Yeah.
And if that's what's happened, then
that's what's
happened.
Well,
it's got fuck all to do with us and and what fans of a TV show think. Doesn't matter all that much.
We want nothing but the best for her, though.
Absolutely.
And hope she's well and safe.
Yes.
And happy.
Absolutely. And let's just
but,
leave it at that.
But once again, what a weird way to announce that a character is never coming back. It has officially left. It feels like they could have nipped this in the bud ages ago.
Yeah, and that
instead of
that's
the whole
kind of bit that's so strange about it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Our final storyline tonight is the Telltale Pup. On Monday, Daisy is dropped off by Tim on the street with tons of bags from the shops, and of course Bethany and Daniel are there, so Bethany and Daniel can snipe at each other about Daisy's wardrobe and credit card bill and all that sort of stuff. Daisy insists that she shops at fancy charity shops these days that have fancy designer labels. maybe that's a thing. Who knows?
Who knows?
Back at the flat, Bethany is sure Daisy is aiming to get back with Daniel, and he pretends that he hates the idea. It's as if he'd go there again, he says. That's all I wanted you to say, says Bethany. At the Rovers, Glenda is fighting through the trauma at work when Jenny drags Daisy away to shout at her about the amount of money that she's been spending and how blatant she's been about it. And of course, Bethany comes into the pub to overhear them argue about spending money from that account. Next, she speaks to Tim about Daisy's spree around the charity shops, and Tim says that he picked her up from Selfridges, so he doesn't know what she's talking about. And Bethany makes a Bethany face, and her jewellery thickens by about 5 inches. Then she speaks to Carla about Uncle Stephen and the money trail in the journal, which Audrey still has, apparently. Her jewellery is now so thick it threatens to choke her. And then she spots Christina, who Daniel explains is Daisy's mum, and then continues to wind Daisy up, who bars her and her ratty extensions from the pub. Christina sees Bethany and Devs and apologises for her daughter's behaviour, and later Bethany sneaks back into the Rovers and asks Audrey for a shifty at Stephen's journal, but Audrey explains that she threw it out ages ago. Bethany sees Daisy and calls a truce for Bertie's sake. It's good that Bertie can always be brought into this.
Sure, Bethany. Yes, let's use a young child in order for you to get to the bottom of this in the most skeevy way possible.
Daisy calls her bluff and asks her round for dinner tomorrow. Bethany is keen to go and will drag Daniel along for good measure because there's no show without punch. Detective Bethany on Monday was kind of hilarious in her obvious approach to this by approaching all these people and asking them obviously pointed questions.
Right. Just the skeeviest way possible.
But because she thinks that Daisy's lying about her designer clothes. That's the only thing that she's going on.
Right, and it's suspicious that they have a lot of money now. And also, she just plain hates Daisy.
Yes.
Here's the thing, though. There is a way for her to get to the bottom of this where she's not a terrible person. And yet they have chosen to make her a terrible person in the way that she is going about this.
Bethany is a horrible, horrible character.
Bethany is a horrible person. Daisy is also a horrible person. And this week, all of a sudden, she's become a really, really horrible person, like the horrible person she was at the very beginning.
Yes, absolutely.
Just the worst person in the world. They're both terrible. There are no winners here. Only losers.
Right.
Because we must have a cat fight in this story? Really?
So you think there's a way for her to do this without being as horrid?
Yes.
And what's that?
Just doing it nicely.
Oh,
and not
I think
using
that's something specific.
And not using, well, for one thing, not using Bertie in the way that she's using him.
That's kind of low, right?
That's very low. In the way that she's sneaking about and the way and things that she does that we haven't talked about yet. You know, like cranking up the stove, for example.
We'll absolutely talk about that.
You know, there's a way for her to be doing this where it seems like she's genuinely interested in getting to the bottom of this and maybe helping her family out. But no, this is all about Daisy. She's obsessed with Daisy.
She really is.
And it's not a good look.
And Daisy's called her out in it before,
right,
saying, how obsessed are you?
Yes.
And it doesn't put her down at all.
She has Regina Georged her multiple times.
Right.
And yet Bethany does not care. Because in her mind, Bethany is Regina George.
Yeah. There's some cracking lines along these... there's some cracking bits of dialogue along these lines that comes up later on.
Yeah, I really liked the way Christina kind of shot Bethany down in Devs.
Yeah, God, you ask a lot of questions, don't you?
Right, yeah.
Although Christina seemed to be the person that was offering up information
right
at the start, but then was doing it in a really strange way. So
right.
At the end, Bethany just like doing John Travolta, just looking blankly about herself for somebody to explain what just happened.
While holding a trench coat and
right.
having the most disgusting little ponytail, rat tail in the back of his head.
Well, that's true.
Yes.
On Tuesday then,
I bet
Bethany,
he misses that rat tail
Bethany
now.
heads over to the Rovers to see if she can help out in the prep of the dinner party, although that's not why she's really going there. She's just going there to stir things up. She says that outright to Daniel, although
Right.
stirring things up and stirring things, not stirring things.
Right, yes, and also to snoop around and to violate Jenny's privacy.
It does, however, give us a chance to have a look at the kitchen in the Rovers, and
I
oh my
know!
god, it's fucking enormous and shiny and chrome.
Right,
and they
it's-
only have a reheat hot pot there.
And this is what really confuses me. I'm like, why is she making this dinner in the bistro?
I thought it was a bistro as well.
What is going on here? Because that kitchen from the dining room does not look like that.
Or it didn't used to. It does now,
It's
but it didn't used to.
It's so bad. It's like, where are they keeping this? Is the Rovers a TARDIS?
There's an Aggie in it. There's like an 8-burner stove in it with like multiple ovens.
Why are they not cooking more things? Why do they not have a full menu?
And it's spotless.
It is. It's
You
like
would hope it was spotless.
nobody ever cooks there.
Jeez.
Is this where they go to warm up their morning coffee? Where's where are the tchotchkes and the live, laugh, love signs and all the other weird art that Jenny has in other parts of the house?
Yeah. That's what I thought.
What's
was through
going
there was
on?
just a massive live, laugh, love poster was
Right.
beyond that door.
And a
but
coffee pot
apparently not.
and a microwave. That's all I expected there.
Daisy's under pressure but pretends that she's fine, and so she and Bethany chop the veg using knives that they don't stab each other with. Well, Daisy goes off to change.
I thought Bethany was going to cut her hand off so many times.
Bethany turns up the temperature on Daisy's apple pie so that it burns, and this sends Daisy into town to buy dessert, asking Ryan to keep an eye on Bethany. Hint, Ryan doesn't keep an eye on Bethany. And this allows Bethany to go rummaging around through the back room of the Rovers, where she eventually finds Stephen's fucking journal. Quickly, she makes her excuses and leaves. Daisy comes back with a super expensive pavlova and a plan to get Bethany to show her true colours tonight. Bethany, though, is going through the nonsense that Stephen wrote in his journal, and when she sees his family
He's
tree
got
sketch,
diagrams.
something clicks. Right. It's her enormous jewellery and her brain. Oh,
Sure.
that's clicking. At the dinner party, Bethany is quick to remark on Daisy's designer outfit. Ryan, though, is wearing the same shirt that he wore that night that Daisy got him drunk. Remember that night?
Right, yes.
That's the shirt he was wearing that night.
Right, yes. When he was sexually assaulted by Daisy.
Bethany refuses to let the dress thing go and is actually about to reach down Daisy's back to see the label when Daniel demands that his woman be seated.
Right, yeah. It's like, you can't, Bethany, you can't touch people without their permission.
Right. Bethany wants to know which charity shop she got it from. Daisy tells her to suck her balls. Bethany keeps sniping and digging about the dress. Daisy calls her obsessed, and she says that she doesn't need another stalker. So Bethany produces Stephen's journal and asks Daisy why she had it, and accuses her of stealing Carla's money and using it to buy the pub and numerous fancy dresses. Daisy
Yeah,
explains how
dresses that are far too fancy for the Rovers and for anything that Daisy would ever go to. That dress is so ridiculous.
Was it?
It was.
See, it just looked like a dress to me.
It was far too formal for a dinner party. I will tell you that much.
Daisy explains how she pulled it from the bin in the hope to give Jenny some closure, and then she just forgot that she had it. Daniel has had enough and drags his woman home, apologising for bringing her in the first place.
Even though she was the one who was invited and then agreed to bring him.
While Daisy coolly smiles and practically goes, wink at
Right.
Bethany.
Mwah-ha-ha-ha-ha, and twirls her mustache.
Daisy easily manoeuvres Ryan and then explains to Jenny what happened and gives her excuse, which works because it's partially true.
Right.
And it's the journal's full of mad ramblings anyway, so there's nothing that's pointing back to them. However, they can't destroy it now that Bethany knows that it exists. Jenny looks like the burden of these lies is beginning to take its toll, and meanwhile, Ryan has gone home to tell Auntie Carla about the weird ramblings of Bethany at the dinner party, and suddenly Carla becomes interested in chatting with Jenny and Daisy because Ryan does mention the purchase of the Rovers
Right.
and the stolen Stephen money.
Right, yeah, and something twigs for Carla. Finally.
So on Wednesday, preparations are underway in the Rovers for karaoke on Friday on Wednesday, as Daisy takes delivery of new boots and a purse that she uses to bribe Christina.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, Daisy, read the room.
Fucking settle down, you silly cow.
Read the room. And see, this is also very frustrating because Daisy likes nice stuff, but she does also like a bargain. You know, I mean, one of the reasons why she was doing social media was to get free stuff. So for her to just be spendy without being smart about it.
And all this.
And buying ridiculous clothes that don't make sense.
She continually blames Jenny for because Jenny bought that one thing.
One thing. And that was hideous as well. They're like, oh no, this is new. This is brand new. And it's so fancy. And it's like, I seem to remember B. Arthur wearing that on the Golden Girls once, Jenny.
So Jenny is fucking furious about
Yes.
the splashing of the cash. And then she's terrified when she bumps into Carl and Nina Rolls, who makes it known that she heard about Bethany last night. Jenny says Bethany was so drunk she had to be carried home, which isn't strictly true.
No.
Jenny rushes back to the Rovers with the worst idea ever. Let's save the knicker factory by buying 15 grand's worth of knickers using secret names. Daisy poo-poos the terrible idea, and Jenny reckons that she has no intention of paying the money back anyway. Daisy doesn't deny it, and thinks it's impossible to get the money back to Carla without implicating themselves, which is probably true. Later, Jenny and Daisy argue about who should clear up a spilt pint, so Daisy responds to this in the middle of a busy pub by singing Fighter by Christina Aguilera and seems to be directing it at Jenny. Jenny puts a stop to this, and while the two of them continue to bicker over the mic, Carla comes in and hears them talk about being in this together. Ryan quickly spits them up, and when Jenny storms out, Carla's nose begins to bother her, and she follows Jenny to the community garden, and the two of them get talking, and Carla works her magic, correcting Jenny when she says Stephen's money, it was my money, and says something that doesn't smell right here. Jenny knows resistance is useless at this point, and confesses all.
Resistance is futile even.
Carla, if you thought Jenny was fucking furious, Carla is fucking furious. This was her money. Money that was going to pay salaries, money that was keeping the factory afloat.
Right.
Jenny blames Daisy for it all and explains how Daisy worked it out thanks to the postcard that was stuffed in the journal that had the password to an account. Carla storms off to the pub with Jenny in her wake. Sally and Debbie are singing I've been to paradise, but I've never been to me. When Carla bursts in and demands to see Daisy in the back room, Daisy reacts very badly to someone barking orders at her again.
Right.
But Jenny insists. Through the back, Carla lays the allegations out. Daisy says it's not as bad as it sounds. It was only to save the pub. Ryan had left for Glasgow and she had nothing. I know how that feels, screams Carla.
Right.
And Daisy looks like she
Read
just
the
shot
room,
herself.
Daisy. Read the room.
Throughout all this, Jenny is bubbling that she'll pay Carla back like $500 a month, which Carla calculates will take 40 years.
Right.
Jenny blames Daisy. Daisy calls Jenny pathetic, and Carla and a very confused Ryan head off to the cop shop.
Right, yeah. Daisy is not sorry.
At all.
Not sorry at all.
She's not even sorry that they got caught, I don't think.
No. She is defiant to the very end. You don't understand. This had to happen. We are good people for having done this. Jenny has been hearing the telltale heart under the floorboards this whole time. She is very sorry. She deeply regrets this. Daisy, nothing. It's like all of the year and a half of the rehabilitation of Daisy as a character is just completely out the window now, and we're back to square one.
And I think it started its retreat back to this position the second that she got that password cracked.
Yeah.
The money just absolutely reset everything in her brain.
You know, I think it actually started, I think her brain began to reset at the acid attack. I think she had been this character who had so much growth and had this much better life because she had been doing the right thing. And then she gets attacked for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of feels like the reset kind of starts there.
Yeah, it could be. I was confused by the little triangle thing that was going
Right.
on and her feelings for Ryan and
Right.
stuff.
But again, that's something that old Daisy would be more likely to do than new Daisy. Because it's like when she got caught from that before the whole money thing, she says to Daniel, all right, I have tried very hard to be the person you want me to be a good person, and it has not worked out for me, so I might as well just be that awful cow that you knew in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it really kind of feels like that was the reset. And an awful lot of this is just self-preservation for her. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it acceptable.
No.
But it kind of bums me out that both of these women, both of these young women, Bethany and Daisy, are both equally horrid and unlikable now at this point.
Well, you did like Daisy at the start.
I did until she sexually assaulted Ryan. And then I'm like, wait a second.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've gone a little too far here.
Yep.
I would much rather her murder someone like Tracy.
Right. I don't know if this is the time to talk about this, but let's talk about it anyway, as we seem to be in it.
Right.
Your point of them going down this road, how this was a terrible idea for them to do this, it has proved to be so. It hasn't lasted 4 months where they haven't been able to work together. They haven't been able to keep on top of this. They struck this plan where they were going to be equals behind the scenes.
Right. And
But-
then
but in
Daisy
the
all of
front
a
of the
sudden
house-
wants to be in the front of the house equals.
Which can never happen because
No.
why is Jenny putting up with this shit?
Right.
So it was doomed for failure
Yeah.
before it even began. They managed to get through the first couple of months, all right, although Jenny was always very flighty about it and
Right. Yeah.
and was never really as committed about it. Daisy was
It's the horrible beating of the telltale heart.
Daisy was able to compartmentalize that little bit of it and ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
So the greater good here is that we are in charge of our own destinies and
Right.
and we can make money. And if you want to hear me say that we will pay Carla back eventually, I will absolutely honour that for you. Well, we'll have no intention of actually doing it in practice because we can't.
Right. Because how do we do this?
So she has become this kind of hard-headed person that she had to be in order for this to work for her. She had to become this person again because it wouldn't have worked if she was Nice Daisy, because Nice Daisy would care about other people. I mean, Nice Daisy would care about the factory workers that are going to come in, and Nice Daisy would care that Jenny has to be a burden for all this. But getting what she wants, Daisy is able to ignore that.
Right. Yeah. And then doubles down on it by using Jenny's one dress as an excuse to just spend all this money.
Until there's no money left.
Right. Yeah. Which I'm glad Carla found out before that happened.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, I don't know who this character is anymore.
So there's a long line of criminals waiting to hand themselves into the police station. So Ryan and Carla have to wait. And during this time, Ryan wonders if reporting them is the right thing to do, as they'll get prison for this. And Carla couldn't give a flying fuck about either one of them and wants them to pay. Ryan, though, still loves Daisy, as mad as it sounds, and as much of a liar as she is, and he can't stop how he feels. He begs Carla to change her mind. So they go back to the Rovers. Carla explains it's because Ryan loves Daisy. She can't see the appeal herself, and she fires Daisy on the spot. What about Jenny? Is she getting fired too, says Daisy. And Carla laughs at Daisy's sociopathy and throws her out.
Right, yeah.
Jenny's for staying, but this is Carla's pub now.
Right.
She doesn't trust Jenny
She's
anymore.
hanging by a thread.
And she doesn't like her anymore, and she will get her money back. Carla leaves. Ryan hangs back to speak to Daisy. When Daisy comes back, once Carla's left, she's got an idea of putting handbag hooks on the tables and reckons that Carla will reinstate her, but Ryan is unimpressed at the cold disregard that Daisy has shown after stealing stolen money.
Right.
And he makes it clear that he doesn't want anything to do with her again and reckons that she's convinced that he's the one out of order in all this.
Right.
Daisy quickly blames Jenny for all of it. Thanks to her, Daisy has lost everything, and she points out that Jenny is a liar and a thief, and it's just the same as her.
No,
And
not the
that's
same.
how we end this week's episodes.
Not the same, because Jenny feels genuine remorse. And Jenny's not, oh, we got caught. This is horrible. Let's put purse hooks on the bottom of the It's a good idea.
Sure.
I'm surprised they don't have those already.
Maybe don't talk about it right now, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe remember that Carla kicked you out. And that doesn't mean that you can't be there when Carla's there. That means you can't be there forever.
Right.
That's,
This is Carla's pub now.
that's how that works.
And that was what Carla says. This is my pub now. And if you feel sore about that, I suggest you go to the police about it.
Right, which she'll never do because
Obviously.
she stole all that money. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, we were talking about Tracy earlier and the fact that Tracy has left. And, you know, Tracy has left. We rarely see Beth anymore. And she is also supposedly heading out of the show.
Right.
So I guess we kind of need new people to take up this type of character, the kind of bitchy character
Yep.
that you hate to love and love to hate. It's a trope. All soap operas have these kind of bad bitches. Do we need them? Are they required? Or should we allow that sort of thing to kind of head off into the sunset in a black cab?
I don't know. I quite like the trope of it. I feel like we need to have some villains, and we need to have some male villains and some female villains, and the female villains tend to be of the bitch archetype. The Joan Collins, the Sue Ellen. Was Sue Ellen a villain in Dallas? Not so much.
Betty Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but also, you know, we do have these other characters who are not perfect and can cut you down very easily, but are not bad people. Evelyn, for example.
Well, Debbie, for example, she was a villain with the skyscraper storyline.
Eileen can be that sort of person sometimes.
She's far too chill these days. She doesn't give a fuck about anything.
She was about ready to kick a man and his son, a man who'd already been homeless once.
Yeah, she changed her tune about that.
Back onto the street after the first time she promised him he would always have a home with her. So she has her moments. So it's like, I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe they don't have to be as bitchy. They don't have to be as much of a stereotype. Like I was saying, you know, it's perfectly fine for Bethany to sort of figure something out and to follow her nose and to figure it out further and stuff because it needs to be found out, whatever it is. But there are ways to do it where you don't have to burn the pie.
Well, the driver for it all was her hatred for Daisy.
Right.
It wasn't justice.
No. And
Justice
see, that's the other thing.
Was a very, very distant second.
Right. That was just the cream on the top, was the whole justice part that made her pettiness somewhat justified in her eyes. But yeah, the whole fact that this doesn't come out because Bethany is a smart sleuth who has figured out that something is wrong and she needs to get to the bottom of it because it's a wrong thing. No, she hates Daisy and is jealous of Daisy and thinks Daisy is out to steal her man back. And so she must figure out how Daisy is paying for nice clothes.
Right.
You know, there's a way to tell. I guess what I'm saying is there's a way to tell this story where it's not like, ooh, cat fight, pulling hair, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That said, though, I think this week has been my favourite week this year.
Really?
I
No.
loved it this week. I loved it on Friday. I loved those scenes with Carla when she found out and she tore them down.
We got Mason back this week. This can't possibly be your favorite week.
Very, very briefly. I think this is This is peak Corrie for me this week, which is hilarious because it comes on the back of the Guardian article, which basically outlined what everybody thinks is wrong with the show. So the week that article comes out, the show's arguably firing on all cylinders.
Right.
Because there were so many good things happening this week, apart from
Mason.
Carla and Daisy and the Bethany storyline. I loved the Maria and Audrey
Yeah, that was nice.
stuff as well. And for all that it was done fairly badly, Tracy leaving is not nothing. So
Right.
the show tends to be better when female characters are firing, and it felt that they
Right.
were this week.
Yeah. But, I prefer it when they're firing the way Carla was and the way Audrey and Maria were as opposed to the stereotypes that are Bethany and Daisy. I even really liked and appreciated Jenny, because when Daisy said, "Well, you didn't actually think we were going to pay her back, did you?" Like the look on Jenny's face when she realizes how evil Daisy has become.
Yeah, she's made the deal with the devil.
Right. Yeah. And she's not happy about that, and she does the right thing finally and tells Carla.
And I thought the way that was built up was beautifully done.
Yes.
Jenny coming clean because Carla just worked at her and worked at the bits that she knows is going to get a reaction from Jenny and play on Jenny's guilt. It was done brilliantly, so that when Jenny spills, you're like, oh, thank God she's spilling, because I couldn't stand to watch Jenny for 1 second longer trying to smile at Carla and pretend that everything was fine.
Yeah.
It portrayed that part of Jenny's character brilliantly, I thought. Yeah, everyone that was involved in that, even Ryan, who was basically confused for most of it.
Right.
I thought his bit at the end where he says, there's still part of you that thinks that everyone else is in the wrong.
Yeah. That's the majority of her thinks that everybody else is in the wrong.
And that was just a brilliant line for him to finish on.
And it's just so devastating to just watch him crumble when he realizes what a horrible person he's in love with. Mm-hmm. And to say, I am still in love with you, but I don't want to be with you. That's a very strong message.
Absolutely.
There. So yeah, that was good. I liked the little bit of Evelyn and Bertie and Nina continuing to defend Roy, and then David's little bit in it. I thought that was really good. It's always nice when they just kind of sprinkle David in to these storylines, because he's great at that. He's great at being the ear, the help, the comedic relief. He fills in the blanks very nicely, and that is a compliment.
Yeah, I thought so too. Even it's just
that
he's maybe starting to say just a little bit too much.
He hasn't said it in a while.
And he's me.
Right.
I thought it was hilarious as well.
Yeah. And I really like karaoke night. I hope Carla doesn't kill it.
Oh, karaoke night was so
Karaoke
funny.
night is so funny.
And I forgot to mention, how could I forget to mention, since we kind of half spoke about it, Alia with all her bags, Alia coming into the pub all covered in bags and coats so you can't see her bump. And then Alia
behind Izzy
uses Izzy, fucking Izzy, to conceal her bump. It's like, oh my God, we got to this point where we're now using other characters to conceal our bumps.
I was a little confused by that trio.
Yeah.
Because it's what? It's Kirk, Izzy, and Alia. And it's like...
singing Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me.
Right. How is it these three characters in particular? I guess Izzy and Kirk both work at the factory, so that kind of makes sense.
And Alia used to work at the factory.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, that was hilarious.
Very fun. And Sally and Debbie singing together, and Sally getting mildly annoyed at Debbie. And it's like, you're the one who asked her up there. Yeah. She's got a microphone. She's going to sing with you.
Oh, well, for the 300th time then, that was the week that was Coronation Street. Helen, tell me, what was your moment of the week?
Audrey and Maria.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Sorry, Tracy.
Sorry, Tracy, and sorry, Daisy, and sorry, Jenny, and sorry, Carla. I mean, I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah.
I thought it was lovely.
Yeah, there were a lot of good moments. I will give you that.
That was our
Moment of the week.
your boring moment of the week.
Bethany telling Daniel to take a shower and change his shirt.
And his pants.
And his pants.
And when he said pants, he's not meaning American pants. He's meaning Honda pants.
Yeah. He
Change
put
my Honda pants.
Well, if you're going to take them off to take a shower, it kind of feels gross to put them back on when you've been wearing them all day.
And sometimes it's a little kinky. Anyway, that is our
boring moment of the week.
Your score out of 10 this week.
6.5.
A big old 9.5 from me.
It would be 7 if there was no Mason.
You know,
Mason
stuff like
always
please.
brings the scores down.
6.5. He was only there for like one scene.
Doesn't matter. Does not matter. He brings it all down.
Brings it all down to Chinatown?
No, that's racist.
Is it?
Yes. I don't know. Probably.
This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast: Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Trisha, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, and English Victoria. I'm almost needing 2 breaths for that.
Woo!
If you've ever made 300 episodes of our podcast, write in to tell us about it. We're the talkofthestreet at gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. Check out the clicky section of voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store and YouTube channel. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists. Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.